Okay, well, we've given our green Loctite sufficient time to cure. Next step, put your idler gear in here, your pin. Make sure you put your starter bolts in first, and then there's a shim on here. I'm assuming in case this idler gear wants to migrate back and forth, this ring gear doesn't grab a hold of it and eat it. So we've got our idler in there with our starter mounting screws, and this little shim here is what goes over that, just to kind of keep it from getting in there. So get him set on. All right, now that we're going to fit this little itty bitty key, I'll try not to struggle with it too much, and then we're going to slide our flywheel on. Well, not our flywheel, I'm sorry guys, this is our starting gear. So, and this is a one-way bearing. If you guys can see, I'll try to see, it turns that way, but if I turn it this way it grabs. So when the engine's running, this here will sit in freewheel, and it's not going to spin our starter motor, you know, however many thousand RPMs. So let's get this guy here set on there, get it lined up. You can see we got our little keyway in there. Probably not. There, dropped right on. We're moving on to the next one. We're going to put our flywheel on here, and it's important. It says that well, you guys used one of these taper lock sleeves before. Well, let me take this apart and I'll show you. I'm sure you guys have seen them. They're kind of a neat idea. They work really well. See them on air compressors and such a lot for mounting shivs. The way they work is you've got your inside here, which is tapered, and this here, which is a corresponding taper. Well, when you squeeze these together, that causes this to grow and that to shrink. Well, we want this to grow to grab the inside of this. We want this to shrink to grab the end of our crankshaft. So that's how these little guys work. They work really well, and once they're installed, you have this one here and this one here, which are threaded. You take your bolts out that clamp it together and you put them in here, and they act as jack bolts to press this back apart, so you can get everything back apart. They work really well. So all right, I'll keep moving on this. Our flywheel is installed, and now you guys can see how that one-way bearing is working. I can turn the engine over and our ring gear is not moving. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. There, see, that's not moving. Turn it this way. See how our starter gear is moving? I bet you this starter's just going to be noisier than hell when we finally get it to crank over. So, all right. Well, let's move on to what's next. We're going to be installing this shim around that, and then bolting our starter motor to it. I kind of wish I'd have painted that before we hung it on there, but like I said, I bet you this thing's going to just sound terrible when we go to start it. I bet it sounds like a Chrysler gear reduction starter. Great. Okay. So next what we got to do is we got to put our valves in. According to the instruction manual, we install our valves and then we put our lifters in. So we are going to follow the manufacturing instructions. We'll see if we have enough clearance when we lift our valve all the way up to get our lifters down here in the bottom. So we're going to start up here on one, on our intake, and then our exhaust, intake, exhaust, all the way down. We'll get all four of these in on that last one. I will show you guys what we come up with, and I'm not sure, hopefully we don't have to do it twice, but if we do, we will. We are going to follow the instructions on this. We're going to put our valves in first, and then we'll put our lifters in. So I'll get started on it. I'll bring you guys back, and we'll see what it's like on the fourth one, on the 4-cylinder, and hopefully we do have enough clearance. So show you guys in a second. Okay guys, I've got 7 of them in. We're going to do this 8th one together. I'm going to do my best to keep my hands out of your way. This is a really fiddly little task. They do give you extra parts of all of these except valves for assembly work, which I'm glad they did, because one of these hit me right in the face. So we were able to find it, but all the valve springs are the same gauge. They are, well, they do have to fit on a certain direction to hold the keeper in. And yeah, there's not a whole lot of room to get your fingers in here and monkey around. I'm sorry guys, I know that I'm right in your way, but okay. We got our spring and our retainer disc on, and now we get to put our retainer on. And the retainer, you guys can see it, it's that little horseshoe shape that drops down over the valve, and then our retainer will hold it on. There, can you guys, let me pull you closer. My big finger's in your way and you still can't really see it, but then you let it go. Look at that. We have all 8 of our valves installed. Okay, well, looks like we're ready to start putting in our lifters. Let me get set up on that. You guys will get to see it. So on these lifters, I should really use Thomas's suggestion, but these are adjustable lifters. They just screw in and out, and the manual suggests that you use Loctite 243 to keep them in position. And it also says that they want the intake at 10.25 millimeters and the exhaust at 10.2 millimeters. So I will get 4 of them set up at 10.25 and 10 set up, or I'm sorry, I will get 4 of them set up at 10.25 and 10 of them set up at 10.2. And then hopefully guys, I really hope we don't have to take this valve train back apart to get our lifters down in the bottom of there, because that wasn't a lot of fun. So let me get 2 groups of these set up, and we'll get going. So here you go, 10.25. That will be our intake, and then we'll get our 10.20 set up for our exhaust. We'll probably let these sit overnight. Let this blue Loctite that I dribbled all over set up, and then tomorrow night we'll put these together. Okay guys, this is going to be our last lifter to get put in. We've got it lubed up. We're going to raise it up, pick it up all the way to the top, and I know my hands are going to be right in the way. We're doing this all in one shot. This is going to be the hardest one because you guys get to watch. Get him lined up. We'll pull it back a little bit with our pick. Sorry, this is as painful for me to do as it is for you to watch. But there. There you go, guys. You guys see them valves operating? Okay. Okay, guys, let's get our water pump put together. So we've got, well, this is our water pump housing. Here's our outlet, our impeller, spacer bushing, our front seal, our wear bushing, and then we've got this little, you guys see that guy or not? But that there goes between our wear bushing and our, well, to keep our side play or our end play in check. So let me get this guy put back together, and we'll move on to what's next. We're going to do the oil pump next, and then we'll get our front cover put on. This head is just sitting on here, so all right, let me get this together. We'll press this bushing in there, and we'll press our seal in the front. So give me just a second. Okay guys, let's get our oil pump put together. We've already driven our bushing down in here. We'll get our seal, and it's, you guys have done seals before. You know, the lips go on the inside, so when the pressure hits, well, it's gonna grab those lips and force it out. So we'll get this guy shoved down in there. Not a big fan about how these seals are staying in, but that's nothing we can't deal with. So we take our drive, put it in. And there's nothing fancy about this, guys, at all. This is a pretty simple little oil pump. It doesn't even have, well, you guys see the hole? Oh, there you can see it. I don't even have to get this poker out and show you, but it's down in there for this, the other part of our oil pump gear to ride on. They've omitted that from this kit. Obviously it doesn't need it. The machining is very nice, and you can see, you know, if I can get a hold of that. I mean, it turns well. So obviously they knew what they were doing. They left that out for a reason. So we've got our, if I can find it, we've got our back cover painted on 3 sides. The back side is not painted. And then we've got our inlet and our discharge. So I'll get that all assembled, and we're gonna get this front cover put on, get our water pump, our oil pump mounted. Okay, well, we've got our water pump assembled. We have our oil pump assembled. One thing I did notice on this oil pump is the shaft that drives the little gear on the inside. It was a loose fit, and you could hold that gear and turn the shaft, and that ain't good for an oil pump, guys. I mean, think about it. Well, yeah, it looks like it's turning, but if it's slipping on that gear, guess what? No oil flow. Bad things happen on the inside. So if you have one, address that issue. What I did was I soldered mine on, silver soldered. So yeah, we know it's a good solid joint at this point. So let's get our water pump put on. I did grease our bushing in the front. I don't know if you guys can see it in here. That's greased inside of there also. Let me get our gasket on here. We get that water pump on. All right, guys, look. We've got a water pump on the front of here. And it probably doesn't really, you can't see it too much. It's all the same color, but you can see how we got to touch that in. Don't worry, we'll get to it. But let's get our front cover put on. That front main seal here, I did apply green Loctite to that to keep it from wanting to walk out, because it wasn't a very good fit in there. And well, Johnny Q90, he's already got his running, and he noted that there was a leak on his front seal. So we'll address that issue before it becomes an issue. And I also noticed on his, I don't know, maybe he didn't realize it, or maybe he also had problems with these instructions, but on his, if you look, the intake and exhaust manifolds were swapped when he put it together. When he got it running, they were the other way. So yeah, obviously these instructions leave a lot to be desired, because he's fantastic at what he does. So all right, enough talking. Let me get this front cover put on. Our front cover sits like this, and our pickup for our ignition, which is right here, that's going to live behind our front pulley. So this will live right here. So we'll get our 3 bolts in just to hold it, and then we'll get our timing pickup put on, put our other 2 in. I'll get her together for you. Well, look at that, guys. It's looking more like an engine all the time. Let's get our ignition pickup mounted on the front of here. Kind of hesitant to put that on because I don't want to, smack it, knock it off, or break it, something like that. But we'll just be a little bit more careful. The next thing we'll do, we'll put our oil pan on here. That way our little block can hold this front end up a bit higher. Get this on here. I'll get my hand out of your way, and when you come back, we'll have that on. It'll be upside down on its head. We'll put our oil pan on. All right, well, you guys see that up there? We've got our pickup mounted. Let's get our oil pan on. This is the gasket they said. It's really nicely, I'm not sure, probably pressed out, but I mean, it fits beautiful. Look at that. Everything lines up just right. So, look. All right, well, hell, you guys know what an oil pan looks like. Let me get it bolted on. We'll flip it over and we'll move on. All right, guys, look. We got all 14 of our oil pan bolts in. I really don't need to tell you this, but always start in the center when you go to tighten them up. Work your way out, alternating sides as you go. Center, this one, that one, that one, that one. Work your way out. So, okay. All right. Well, we've got our side cover gasket, and for crankcase ventilation, I don't know that it's going to be sufficient enough. Well, you guys see this here? This is what holds our tappet cover on, and then this here will be our crankcase ventilation. I don't know. Yeah, might be sufficient, but maybe not. So, if so, I mean, it is what it is. We can easily put another one here and here above that. We do have clearance. We have no valve springs there. So if we need to add crankcase ventilation to it, absolutely not a big deal. So we're going to make sure that we get our gasket hole lined up with our ventilation port. You see that? There. Because it will fit this way too, but yeah, you're not getting through that. So, all right. We're lined up. Let's get this put on. Okay, guys. Let's get our oil pump mounted. We got to get this thing done. Look at this bench. It's a damn mess. So, our oil pump gets mounted right here. And then this is our belt adjuster. He'll go on here and, well, it goes right here. So, let me get this mounted on there. Then we're going to get our pulleys on. Before we put well, I'll show you again, but you see this little magnet here? That's separate. So that there gets pressed down in, and you want to make sure that the colored side is sticking out. It has to do with the polarity of the magnet, and it doesn't specify which one this goes in, but I mean, we got to set that. We'll roll this up on top dead center and adjust this, figure out where our spark is on number 1. So, well, before we get to that, let me get this oil pump mounted. Alright guys, well, hey, you see that little oil pump mounted on there? This is our adjustment to tension our belt. And our belt, well, our crank's going to be spinning. This is our oil pump, that's our water pump. And this here will keep the belt tight on both of them. So you get her set where you want, tighten it down, make sure everything's locked in, move on. So let me get this magnet shoved in here, right here, and we'll get our pulleys put on. And they want you to hold these pulleys in place with, well, green Loctite. So that's not a big deal, but we want to get everything, we want to get this one on first so we know how to line our belts up. We don't want them running, cattywampus. So let me get this shoved on. We'll set him on there and we'll adjust our timing. All right, you guys see that magnet there? We got it pressed in flush. What we want to do is roll number 1, which is this one here, top dead center on our compression stroke. This is our intake, and it's closed. So there's top dead center. So we're going to make a mark on this side so we know where that magnet is. That's going to be our timing mark. So this is, well, we'll run through it. We're at top dead center. We'll say it just now fired. So we're going down. This is our power stroke. Our exhaust valve should be opening, which should be that one. It's coming up. Piston's coming up. Exhaust valve should be closing. It did. Or this intake valve should be opening. It is. So intake, compression, fires, power, exhaust. So can you guys see the valve overlapping? A little bit far away. So, okay. Intake, compression. Right there's top dead. All right, I'm not going to move it. I'll make a mark where our magnet is. Put it on this side. We'll get that set up. All right, you see our mark that we scribed into there? We know that our number 1 piston is on top dead. So we aren't going to put any green Loctite on this yet, because this is how we're going to advance and retard our timing to get it to run properly. So we're going to set him right here, and then we're going to put our screw and our locking washer to keep that pressed down against the front of there. So let me get that put on. Okay, we got our front pulley nub down tight. We'll set him back up on here. There. All right, guys. Well, let me get our pulleys shoved on here. We'll line them up. We'll put a straight edge against that groove so we don't have, like I said before, our belts, you know, staggered and cattywampus. So let me get these little pulleys. And I did go ahead and paint these up too. And we'll get these on, and then I'll show you version 1.0 out of who knows how many for just motor mounts to keep this thing from laying on its pan. Been trying to teach this old dog back here behind the camera a new trick when it comes to playing with 3D printers. So this is just preliminary. Well, let's see how this works, and you know, but when I get a better design put out, I will copy the STL file, and I will put a link to it in my email. And if you guys have one of these and like the way it turned out, well, then you can just download it from there. So, all right, let me get these pulleys put on. All right, we got our pulleys on. They're in line. So what we're gonna do is put some green Loctite on these shafts and let that wick down to hold it. And well, while that sets up, I guess I'll keep playing with those motor mounts. Guys, and I'm sorry this video has been, God, it seems like forever since we started on it. But, I mean, who wants to watch paint dry? I know it can be exciting, but, I mean, you got to do so much and then wait. But, so, it might be tomorrow for me to get back on this, but you guys will see it, well, here in just a second. So, okay, guys, well, while we were waiting on our green Loctite to set up on our pulleys, I was busy with the 3D printer. We made a set of mounts. They're not fantastic, but at least now it's stable and it's up off the ground. We did run our oil lines. So, well, what do you say we put our cylinder head on here? We're still at top dead. We will go through and adjust our timing, but first off, I mean, we know we're at top dead, so not a big deal. Let's get this cylinder head mounted on here. We're running out of parts, which is a good thing. Finally get this bench cleaned back off. So we'll put our cylinder head gasket on. We're going to put it on dry, just in case we have to take it back off. We don't want to tear it, so we'll put it on dry. We're going to set it down on here. I'll roll it over, make sure we have good clearance. It's not going to hang up on our valves. And if we're good, when you guys see this again, it's going to have this pretty little head sitting on it. So let me get to it. Well, there. We got our cylinder head mounted. We are going to go ahead and turn it. We have no obstructions. All right. Well, let's get our intake and exhaust manifolds put on. Remember, intake is first, exhaust. So, all right. With that said, we'll get our O-rings put in here. We'll get our intake manifold and our exhaust manifolds mounted, and we'll bring you guys back, and probably end up after that putting our spark plugs in. I don't think we're going to start it up on this video, but I still need to make a base for it, and well, make the wiring look halfway presentable, because it's just a, well, I mean, there's this ball of wires plus the ignition system, so we'll get there, guys, I promise. So, all right, you guys have been great, and I know that we have passed our 500 subscriber goal, and I want to get this done before we do the drawing. And I'll tell you what, if you haven't made your subscription public, please do, because that's the only way that I can have your name to put it into the hat. So just you know, if you guys want to be in the drawing, please make it public so I can see, and you guys will be thrown in there. And okay, all right, okay guys, well, we got our cylinder head on, we got our manifolds on. So all right, I assembled this carburetor well, off camera, because this is also part of the kit. So let's set him on top of there. Well, shy of spark plugs, and we gotta fill it with oil. Guys, I think we're about ready to start this little guy. But that's gonna be it for this video. I'll have the spark plugs in. I am going to make a base for it. I don't know that we're gonna worry about mounting this little radiator, because, well, this is the hose that they give you. You guys see that? That fits over our inlet and our outlet of our water. And then, you see this? How the hell is that going to work? So, alright. Well, with that said, thank you guys. You guys are fantastic. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. I do apologize for the length that it took me to do this, but I guess in my own defense, I said that we weren't going to rush this because I don't want to do it twice. So we take our time, we do it right the first time. Hopefully we did it right the first time. And we get our ignition system on, and I'll wait for you guys. We're going to fire this up together, and we'll both see how this works. I've already looked at this carburetor. I don't know if you guys can see. You guys could probably see just about as well as I can, with this being, you know, hard to focus. Not sure how much fuel is going to get through there. That's about the size of a pinhead. So we've got that one, but we also have this carburetor, and that fits right on. So one way or another, we know we have a good carburetor. We're going to try with the factory setup first, but we do have options. And the fuel tank that they give us is this one. That's a nice enough fuel tank, but I think they also expect us to use this for our coolant overflow. So with that said, I do have this fuel tank. So we'll probably mount that back here somewhere and let that feed our carburetor. So, okay, thanks again, guys. You're fantastic. I'll see you guys in a couple days. I'll go inside and edit this video and get it out. Hopefully it'll be out, you know, real directly. So thanks again. We'll see you in a little bit. Bye.